Hey, this is Darren from Property Prosperity, and today I thought I'd have a bit of a chat about the selection process when building. And most of you are probably saying, what are you talking about, Darren? I don't actually know what the selections process is. So the selections process is when, if you're looking at building a house, so the first thing you do is shop around a few display homes, or you go and have a chat to some sales guys, or you decide on a particular builder, and then you sign a contract, and they go off and draw up your plans, and they're lodging in applications to council, and they're doing all the full working drawings and the engineering and all that sort of stuff. While that's happening, they're going to send you off to go and choose all the stuff for the house. So your doorknobs and the taps and the colours of the paint and what's the roof and the bricks and there's thousands of things, or probably thousands. There's lots of things in a house anyway that make up a house. So you got to make sure you pick that all out. So that's where you're selecting what you'd like to be in the house, and you can make that as hard or as easy as you want. Particular builders they can make it as hard or as easy if they want to. Hopefully you've gone with a builder that's tried to streamline the process as much as you can. They do have people that hold your hand and take you through this process. And to be honest, I'd probably just take their advice. So I wouldn't try and reinvent the wheel. These people are building lots and lots of houses all the time. They see what it looks like, on paper, but they actually see what the finished products are going to look like, and they're going to see how things work in together and how things are going to match and everything as well. So my advice to people is, take the advice of the people that are taking you through the process. They're going to give you a pretty good guide of what's going to match and what's not going to match. So my tips for saving you thousands of dollars when you're going through the selections process is, now that we actually know what the selections process is the first thing is just know what you want, even before you get there. So I don't know if you've heard the advice that if you want to go shopping, you're going to do your weekly grocery shop, you should go there with a list, and you're going to save yourself heaps of money, because otherwise you just wander around aimlessly and just start picking up stuff and throwing it in your trolley when you may or may not have needed it. And that's obviously where marketing and all that sort of stuff comes into it. You might get a little bit, hey, thanks for joining, and thanks for the like as well, and you might get a bit excited when you go there, because you are going to see some pretty awesome things. And so hey Asley, thanks for joining. And so those little awesome things could tempt you to. The problem you've got is, because there's so many things involved in a house, everything individually is not that much more expensive to upgrade to something slightly fancier. The problem is, you times that by 1,000 things in a house, and suddenly you're talking thousands, tens of thousands of dollars more that you're forking out to build this house. When, if you sort of put your blinkers on and just go in there saying, okay, this is my expectations for what I want in my house, this is the list of things I want, anything outside of that doesn't fit in my criteria, and I'm not sure I really need it. And just be a bit of a hard ass on yourself and just say, hey, well, I didn't need it before. Now I've seen this awesome thing. I can appreciate it looks awesome, but do I really need it is the question. So that's the first thing. Just go in there knowing what you want. It's going to save you significant amounts of money. So try not to get distracted, because remember, I suppose the things people don't necessarily understand is the builder, once they've signed you up to a building contract, any additional amounts you pay on top of that, then, you're just going to pay whatever you have to pay at the end of the day. You've already signed up, you bought the block of land, you're starting the building process. You're not, if they suddenly come back and the variations, extra $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, obviously you're not going to be happy, but you're going to have to deal with it at the end of the day, because you still want to keep building your house, and you're not going to go switching with another builder for the sake of a few $100s or a few $1,000s. So bear that in mind, that the builder understands that logic, and the builder understands that if there is any variations, it's going to have to be pretty bad before you actually quit the whole build process. So understanding that they're less inclined to want to negotiate, and they're more inclined to charge you higher prices for things. So that's the first thing. So don't get sucked into the whole not sucked in necessarily, but don't get too excited about buying extra things. And that probably leads into my second tip is understand, you're building this house for yourself, potentially you're going to live in there, or even as an investment. Understand what the market wants in that area. Even if you're going to buy it for yourself and you say, I don't really care, I'm never selling this house, I'm going to live there forever. Things change, you might get another job on the other side of town, or heaps of different things. Have another kid, heaps of different things. Actually decide to you lose your job and then suddenly you have to sell the property. Anything could happen. Who knows what's going to happen over time. So that dream house, you're going to live there forever, and you're making it for your own taste, and who cares what everyone else thinks. Understand that some things can change over time, and when they do change, you may have to sell the property or rent it out, and then you really do care what other people think. So, and the other thing is, you don't want to overcapitalize on the property, because if you have to sell it, then if you've got the mindset, I don't care, I'm never going to sell it, so who cares if I pay too much for this thing. If the situation changes, you do have to sell it, then you are going to be concerned about where it's at. And The thing to understand about markets is, let's say the median house price is 500,000, your house is worth 700,000. It doesn't mean that someone can't afford to buy your house. It's just that they may choose to look at elsewhere. You know, they can go into another suburb and buy another $700,000 house, which is, you know, maybe not quite as good as yours, but it'll be closer to the city or closer to the beach or closer to some other things which make it worth the extra money, I suppose. So bear that in mind. What you're doing as you're getting further and further away from the median house price or the average that people are paying for in the area, then you're going to have less and less people that are going to buy your property. And basically, you want to be around the average or around the median house price because that's where the most amount of buyers are. So if you ever had to sell the property, you want the most amount of people coming to buy it, you know, because that's when you get the most amount of money relative-wise. So you want to make sure whatever house you build, you're not over-capitalizing, which basically means spending too much and pricing itself out of the market, out of your local market. So yeah, that's the next thing is just, you know, just be tolerant of the fact that, or aware of the fact that, you know, it's not always the best thing to have the best thing. You know, sometimes it's good to have a compromise, and in reality, you're comparing things to other things that you really, you know, once you've, I don't know, if you're looking at different doorknobs or different taps, you know, there will be a better tap out there, and there's always going to be a better tap out there, and so you're always going to be able to find something more that you can spend your money on, but just find out something you're relatively happy with. That you know, once you get that tap at home, you're living with it, it's not really going to be a big deal, and it's not really going to change your life. So, yeah, compromise is a pretty good thing, I think, and down the track, you're not really going to be concerned whether you had the super duper tap or the average tap, I imagine. So, and the final thing, which is going to save you a heap of cash, like I sort of touched on it before, is the builder doesn't really have an incentive to try particularly hard once you've signed the contract, you bought the land, you've lodged the plans in the council. So my next thing is if you know you want certain things included in the house, then negotiate with that with the builder before you've actually signed the contract. So if you know you want stone bench tops, then say that to the builder beforehand, before you sign the contract. So hey, how much is it going to cost me for stone bench tops? Obviously, they're going to try a lot harder on their pricing before you've signed the contract than after you've signed the contract, because they know, you know, after you sign the contract, you're going ahead anyway. Whereas before that, you know, they have to sharpen their pencil to try and convince you to sign the contract. So there's a heap of things like that. There's extra power points. There's extra light switches. There's could just be a gas point in your backyard. It could be a dishwasher. You know, you might even be at the situation where you're negotiating with builder. You might actually, they might throw stuff in for you. So hey, tell you what, throw in a dishwasher and I'll sign the contract today. You know, and before you know it, you've just saved yourself $1,000. So you know, it's pretty easy to negotiate things like that before you sign the contract. To try and negotiate once you've signed a contract and you come back and say, hey, throw in a dishwasher now. You know, what sort of incentive do they have to throw in a dishwasher after you've already signed the contract? It's probably not going to happen. So hopefully that's made sense to everybody, and if you've liked what I had to say, then click on the like button. If you haven't liked it, still click on the like button anyway, because I really appreciate it. And if you know someone's thinking about building and they may or may not know what the selections process is, but they're still going to find this useful, I'm sure. So click on the share button. I'm sure they'll find it interesting. And if you've got something you'd like to talk to me about, or you've got a comment about what I've had to say about today, then click on a comment in the comment box, and yeah, I really have to get some feedback from you guys. So thanks again for joining me. So a bit of a recap. So things you need to think about is know what you want, making sure that you are fitting within the market or the demographic, what other people would want, and finally make sure you try and negotiate as much as you possibly can before you sign the contract. So hopefully those tips are going to save you some money, and hopefully it's going to make the process of building a lot more enjoyable, and I look forward to catching you guys next time. Thanks now.